you can, Will.
Come on, baby. Here she comes, boy.
The fishermen of Cornwall. For hundreds of years, they've worked some of the richest fishing grounds in the world.
When you get a nice bag of fish come up, I don't think there's a better feeling in the world, you know.
There's fish! There's fish!
It's a way of life handed down through generations.
I'll be the youngest in the fleet. That's not a bad status to have, is it?
Perfect start to the day, anyway. Woman overboard!
Oh, no!
Now a sea change is coming, the biggest the industry has seen in 50 years.
Fishing is the acid test of Brexit.
Taking back control of our waters, a brighter future beckons.
It was either vote to stay in or vote to get out, wasn't it? Just get out, like.
Beautiful.
What's life really like, living and working in the wild west of Britain?
Can't ask for a better office.
One thing a youngster these days needs is steady money coming in, and fishing doesn't guarantee that.
And what does the future hold for this fishing life?
Bigger the boat, bigger the balls, mate.
I'm in a gambling mood today, yeah.
When you're at sea, fine weather, and there's a bit of fish coming over the rail, there's no better job. There isn't a better job in the world.
These men come down to their boats shortly before sunset during the pilchard season, as pilchards have to be caught at night.
My great-granddad was a pilchard fisherman, and back in the day they used drift nets.
Every port in Cornwall had a fleet.
You see pictures over there where the harbour is absolutely full. You can walk from one boat to the other and cross the harbour.
As darkness falls, the men cast the pilchard nets over the starboard side.
And they would basically shoot them out by hand, flake them out, and they would leave them soaked for a few hours. And then the men would pull them over the rail.
The small mesh of the fishing net catches the pilchards by their gills. This boat has a catch of over 50,000 pilchards.
They was pressing them into barrels and selling them to Italy.
But that just seemed to die out, and several companies must have just disbanded, and the fishery seemed to die.
The drift net fishery, for centuries the mainstay of the Cornish fleet, faded away in the 1960s. But now pilchards are back in demand. Today they're sold as sardines, and the hundreds of drift netters have been replaced by just 15 high-tech ring netters. Eight boats work out of Newlyn, Cornwall's biggest fishing port. Ocean Fish are the biggest player in the game. They're fish processors and owners of 4 orange boats.
I've got Pete!
Veteran Pete Buckland is skipper aboard the Mayflower.
There's a bit poor outside, but hopefully they're in handy and we haven't got to go so far.
Well. Right, James, on board.
It's a big year for first-time skipper James Roberts. He's stepping up from deckhand to take the helm of Ocean Fish's oldest and smallest boat, the Resolute.
We've got to get a couple of boys used to the deck because both of them are sort of new to the job, and then I need to get used to the sonar and stuff like that, so just want to get the grips of it as soon as possible, really.
Competition comes from 4 privately owned boats, including the Lioness. Skippered by Will Trenier, it has the youngest crew in the fleet.
Plan today is we're going to steam down about an hour down the shore off Port Leven. We had a bit of fish there last night, so see if we can do the same again, really.
The Newlyn ring netters don't have to travel far. In midsummer, Cornwall's very own sardine run brings the fish to their doorstep. Shoals swim into Mounts Bay to spawn and keep coming until late winter. Sardines are not a quota species. Boats can land as many fish as they want. But catching them isn't easy. James and his crew have been thrown in at the deep end.
One small mistake could mean the net's left open too long, the fish get out, or you end up in the net, you could drift into the net or something like that.
We are more so hunting. We're trying to track these fish down and we're trying to catch them as they're moving.
Well, there's hellish amount lot to learn. Sonar's the biggest part.
We use a sonar to locate the fish, which looks out fairly horizontally from the boat.
When we find a mark on the sonar, I'm looking for something like that.
If you say this is your ball of sardines that we locate, we'll then line it up on our starboard side and we'll try and shoot a ring of net around it.
Stand by! Yay! And we will deploy the net very quickly because these fish are moving.
The net will then sink.
If the fish are moving faster, I have to then move faster. And then I want to overtake them.
3/4!
So I essentially come around them. They're doing that, I'm doing that quicker. So the net is now falling in front of them. And I come right round and join the net again.
We'll then draw the bottom of the net up, trapping the shoal of fish within it.
And then a winch will wind that in as fast as I want it to wind in, because I want that net to sink beyond them until that bottom of that net is like a bowl. Once that procedure's done, they're entrapped, they're not getting out.
Then as we haul it in, the ball just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, then we end up with a bag of fish at the end of it, hopefully. You're trying to encircle something that's moving, which doesn't always work.
First thing I've seen, not very big.
Pete Buckland has done 10 sardine seasons, 5 as skipper. But all that experience doesn't make the sardines any easier to find.
Some nights you'll go out and have a complete full, and some nights you'll have nothing, and then you could go 2 weeks with nothing, you know? Like, you know, this evening, like, it's looking normal going here now. We would have seen life by now. So I would have been in an area around there thinking, right, birds would be diving and a bit more life, you know, so now we would be thinking about shooting it now as soon as the street lights come on, ready to go. At the moment, you're now like thinking, like, where's the next place to look?
Will has sailed 8 miles to the far side of Mounts Bay and is fishing off Buath Leven. His plan seems to have worked.
Yeah, I got a decent mark here now. So I'm just trying to judge whether it's moving, which way it's moving, that sort of thing at the minute.
Go on!
Until you've actually pursed the bottom of your net up, the fish have always got a chance to get out of your net. Under the gap below your boat or under the foot rope as it's sinking.
There should be a net full here.
You haven't caught them until they're on the boat, really.
As soon as you finish that, I laughed the retrieve. I said they're in there. We thought we had them on there. Sometimes they just baffle you, so yeah, try again anyway. Yeah. Buggers.
Close to Newlyn, James has found some fish.
It's, yeah, not a bad looking mark and not a bad looking place either for us. Definitely looking like the right stuff. It's just trying to keep up with it at the minute. This already looks a bit different because it's changing with every sweep, which is quite often what the sardines do, moving about a bit more.
With 8 boats fishing in the bay, competition for fish can be fierce.
Yeah, we'll go south, get out of here. What I'm looking at is flying here. I'm already trying to learn here at the minute, so I won't get in your way. I'll get out of the way while you're shooting there.
There's little tricks you can do, like call him up on the radio and say, James, I'm shooting, and you're not. Or just chuck the winky other side and he knows you're shooting, so he has to move. And that's pretty much barging him out of the way. Not physically, he moves himself out of the way. So yeah, it's bigger the boat, bigger the balls, mate.
Well, another boat here just shooting it. The stuff I'm looking at is going quite fast, so it's annoying because I just want to shoot some fish, but it's not fair for us to get in the way of one of the other boats there, sort of into them or anything. So we'll go off a little bit now and see if we can find another bit by ourselves to look at.
Give me a break. It'll take a miracle to get around these.
Will has found another shoal, but they're moving fast.
Go on! First quarter! Up!
Yes! They're in a great pile there. But what they are, they're good-sized sardines, you know? 2 or 3 ton. Obviously, this takes the labour out of it, but it's also better for the fish. The quality's better. Really, you know, the clock's ticking once they're aboard the boat. If that mark stays still, it can be plain and simple. But when they start running like this, it's hard going. We got there this time.
By 1 a.m, Pete's decided it's not his night.
Going in. Unless I see someone on the way in. A bit disappointing, yeah. Nothing's a bit of a nightmare. But there you go. Happens all the time.
I think Danny had 18 bins.
The crew of the Lioness will be unloading into the early hours.
It's nice in the summer doing it. It's a bit cold in the winter.
In the old days, the pilchards were preserved in salt. Today, the fish are sold fresh, so the processors need them as quickly as possible.
This is taking the fish directly from the boats. We're loading it into a hopper. We're doing circa 1 ton an hour or 14,000 sardines. Within 24 hours, they would have been caught, processed and left the country.
Since its resurgence in the early 2000s, the fishery has grown into a multi-million-pound industry. Now the pilchards are sold fresh and have been rebranded as Cornish sardines.
Yeah, I get told off if I call a pilchard a sardine with my grandparents. I do get told off for that.
Oh, I still call them pilchards. But from a marketing point of view on the continent, you can sell sardines a lot better.
Since 2010, Cornish sardines have fetched a premium price as they've carried the revered badge of the MSC, the Marine Stewardship Council, who have certified this a sustainable fishery. The MSC badge has led to a massive growth in exports. Over 80% of Cornish sardines are eaten in Europe.
People want to buy into that sort of product rather than a fishery that is being driven into the ground.
It's a big player. We really need it for this job.
The boats in the fishery gained the MSC label by working together. The Cornish Sardine Management Association was formed in 2004.
The Sardine Association was formed by the owners, the skippers and the buyers at the time.
We've limited the vessels within ourselves capped at 15 vessels, so we don't exploit the volumes of fish that's going to be landed. Processors won't take any fish from other vessels outside of that group, which is good for us.
It's rare to see processors and fishermen getting together and working together as opposed to against each other to keep the fishery going, to keep it as responsible as possible and keep it as productive as possible.
Holding on to the MSC badge is the key for this Sardine Association. We need to keep that badge to sell our product.
Tom sent me today more fish down there than what there was back here. There's a lot of fish. If they bunch up down there like they've been doing in here, it might be worth doing, like.
James is determined to stay clear of the bigger boats.
We're going to go away a bit early today and go down the far eastern end of Mount Spey, where one of the other boats has been finding a bit of fish. I'm hoping if we go away early and go down there, we might have it to ourselves for a little bit, but less pressure then. We can just take our time.
Back in the day, the Resolute was a very capable boat, very capable, probably at a point where she was the most capable one in the fleet, and now times have come on, boats have increased, and we're the little one that tags along behind now.
Skippering the boat is a step up in responsibility. No fish means no wages for James or his crew.
There's not been any sign of anything yet, James.
At one mark, that was straight down on the hard ground going down towards the Lizard, and that's it. But hopefully they're coming this way with the tide, hopefully.
And I've got responsibility to other people to earn the money ultimately, but also to keep them safe as well and make sure we don't take any risks and put them in danger. And yes, at the end of the week, you want to be giving them a week's work every week to take home and give them the confidence in you as well.
Yeah, a little bit of fish here. It's right sort of time as well, so just trying to get the right side of them for a minute. They look like they're moving a fair bit as usual.
The odds are stacked against James. The Resolute has the smallest net in the fleet.
With such a small net, we just have to be that much closer to the fish than other boats do, which is very difficult. In some cases, you can get 40 metres within the mark, and they start moving then because they can sense you coming.
Good mark, that is, yeah. The problem is when you go through it, you're dispersing it. They're moving that fast. 1 minute they're out here scattered, the next minute they're right in front of you, dense. Ready, Will, coming up on one now. I don't know if it'll stay where it is. If it stays where it is, we'll have a go.
Okay.
Get on, Will. Come on, you bastards. Quick as you can, Will. We're in there, so hopefully we still got the bastards. Okay, Phil, you!
Come on, baby. You owe us.
I'd see him swimming already.
Pretty, James.
Some in
pretty,
there.
boy, pretty.
Come on. Some in here.
Feeling confident, James?
We got round it all right. I was well happy with the shot. Seemed to be give her the guns a trick.
Give her the gun. Well, keep our fingers crossed. Birds are going mad. It's got a good sign, James. Gotta be.
There's something there anyway. Happy days, Ethan. Happy days.
James has defied the odds and got his first season as skipper off to a strong start.
Down, mate, James. A shot, Will.
He and his crew will earn over 300 quid each tonight.
Their tanks are nearly full up now, so that's, especially for our first night bit of fish, that's all we're happy with that. Probably I'd say about 7 ton, I suppose. We'll call that it. I think we're happy with that. That's good. It's all right night's work. We won't get too greedy on our first night with fish.
See if that fits those nuts on the end for me. The top two, yeah?
Top
Yay or nay?
too small.
Okay.
David Pascoe is just back from a 2-week cruise in the Mediterranean. He's the last skipper to join the annual hunt for sardines.
The fleet's grown quite significantly and probably a little bit too large, and I'm never in any rush to start because it's a bit of a rat race now, like every other fishery was. 5 or 6 years ago, there was only 4 or 5 of us, and it was really enjoyable, but it's gone like everything else, unfortunately.
Go inboard a little bit and it should be all right.
David is one of only 2 fishermen in Newlyn who both skipper and own their boat.
The oil's going to come out, mind.
As one of the ring netting pioneers, in the 18 years he's been doing it, David has witnessed the rapid growth of the fleet.
Once the wealthy companies got involved, it was a bit of a race to see who could build the biggest, carry the most. What was a small developing market of 1, 2, 3 tons a night is now probably capable of 1, 2, 300 tons a night.
To keep up, David has had to make massive investments in his boat.
Just hold on there a minute.
This year, he's fitting it out with a slightly bigger net.
Basically, it's a trailer full of net.
There it is.
With the value of a house.
Sorry, stop it there, Vin.
Cost 81,000 for a 260 metre net. It should be all right. Just be interesting to see the difference in the new and the old net, and take it from there. 6 months of living by night and sleeping by day. The little transition between day and night is difficult for a few nights, but you don't look forward to it, but once you're into it, it's pretty much a hunt, and then you do get that hunger back pretty quickly. This looks lively enough. Will's net. See some activity of gulls or gannets, or they know where they are usually.
With 8 vessels now fishing in the bay, the boats can be drawn to a shoal of fish like moths to a flame.
Sometimes you can have all the boats almost touching each other, which gets a bit hairy. Ourselves and those guys actually had fish that swam from a fair distance apart and dragged the 2 boats together. A bit crazy. Just drop it in the now, mate, please.
Taking the net.
David quickly takes his opportunity to try out his new net on fish that evaded Will's.
Something's wrong here already. What's happening back there? You have to be pulling as hard as you can, boys.
If they're going to make it pay, the crew must quickly get used to the new gear.
Hang on there a minute. Yo! Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Not much here, is there?
Nothing. Not very many at all.
Just flip it, I think. Let them swim off and we'll have them later. Some you win, some you lose. There was a hiccup with the rope that goes through the rings, you know, to close the bottom of the net. So it just brought a few rings to the surface instead of drawing the 25 of them together. So I just plotted the new net just to work out the length and to try and learn the new shape. There's a previous recording of one of the other nets. As you can see, it's considerably bigger than what we're using. Unfortunately, we've all increased our net size over the years, but only by a few metres at a time. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when the fish is concentrated, you can end up with some significant catches. So I don't really need to say how much you can get into a 450 metre one. So where we had an opportunity to limit the size of nets, we passed it up. So it would have been a simple way of conserving stocks and limiting catches, but nobody else was very interested. We've got to try that, I suppose, haven't we? All right then, let's go for it. Is it going? Yeah. So the Sardine Association was formed many years ago. Don't laugh when I tell you the reasons why. First rope okay.
One was to obtain the optimum price for what was a premium product.
Don't let this come back as far, yeah?
And two was to manage the catch levels. "18 years later, we're fishing for less than we were when we started. And the management of catch levels has not been very successful.
You don't look bad, Sample.
But now, for the first time, the Sardine Association has to urgently manage its catch. The members have been forced to work together. Scientists have recently discovered that sardines caught in Cornwall are a separate genetic stock from sardines caught further south.
They believe now there's two different stocks in the area of sea that we fish and the area of sea that the French and Spanish fish.
The prized MSC label is based on the understanding that the sardines were all one stock. So whilst new studies are carried out, the MSC has asked the Sardine Association to put a cap on how much they catch.
We haven't been restricted before. There's no quota involved with the sardines. There's not pressure stock. So basically you can fish away and catch whatever you wanted.
We're looking to set catch limits that meet the requirements for our MSC. From a processor's point of view, obviously they want to process as much fish as they can. From a catcher's point of view, they want to catch as much fish as they can. But when you're trying to set limits and you're trying to share the amount of catch between all the processors and all the skippers, it's quite a difficult decision to make.
The boat owners, skippers and processors are gathering to vote on how to restrict the catch.
We're either going to have an agreement where we're all catching a certain amount of fish across the board, or we're going to each have our own track records. So as long as they give me what I caught last year, I'll be happy.
This season, they need to divide a total catch of around 7,000 tonnes of sardines between the 15-member boats.
It should be interesting, but it's key that we get this decision in order to maintain MSC.
After a couple of hours, they voted to limit the catch based on how much each boat caught in previous years.
Yeah, we're allowed 600 and... I've got the weights here, actually. 2 seconds. 640.
All right.
A little bit less than the Astor and a little bit less than Bullock.
What's Stefan got?
1,400. There's obviously some other boats got massive restrictions, so at the moment I'll keep my mouth shut and just catch it. Really?
By demonstrating that they can restrict their catch, the members of the Sardine Association have bought themselves some time. But if they're to avoid further restrictions in 2019, they need new research to prove that the sardine stocks are sustainable.
Bonnie Grace is my own boat. I've had it about 5 years, and when I bought it, it was about £30,000. And the money I used to buy it was from what I'd earned sardine fishing.
A few years of working hard in the sardine fishery means committed fishermen like James can reap the rewards.
The boat's sort of brought and paid for, but I'm always trying to invest in more nets for the boat, pots and maintenance of the boat and stuff. The off-season for ring netting, I can go and earn a full-time living in this then.
James hasn't just bought a boat, he's also managed to buy a house.
I mean, we're lucky to have a mortgage, like, especially with fishing. You go to any sort of bank or loan, try to get a loan and mention fishing, they sort of start getting nervous. So we're lucky to have what we got, but you know, it's always in the back of your head. You got to, before everything else, you got to keep a roof over your heads, really, especially with the children home.
But as an ambitious young fisherman, like many here, James is concerned about the ongoing Brexit negotiations.
That's the last job now for that. Now, more important job is putting our flag up now. No fishing sellout, that's what that one is. So we'll get that up somewhere up the mast in a minute. Window sticker here as well. There's a reason why Europe was so desperate to get a good deal on fishing, because they've got the bigger slice of the pie, really, and they got, get a good deal out of British waters, really. British fishermen don't have a fair share at the minute.
There have been dramatic clashes between French and British fishermen in the Channel over scallops. The French are said to have thrown rocks and smoke bombs at the rival boats as they accuse them of pillaging shellfish stocks. They clashed off...
Crazy. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, there's a hose up.
See the doors up?
Yeah.
I would say that's to stop them getting thrown stuff at their crew, like,
National laws mean their fishermen can't...
Typical French, isn't it? I think they own the place.
I don't fish anywhere near it. I don't fish the same fishery, and it just, the same as any other fisherman, watching those videos just makes your blood boil, because our boats are there completely legally, and they're also outside of their 12-mile limit.
Yeah, we can't do nothing about it when they come on 6 miles off our shore, catching all the haddock that we're not allowed to catch.
And we are talking to the French authorities at the moment in order to make sure that there can be no repeat of the scenes that we saw.
And our government tells them to, well, hang on a minute until we sort a deal out. There doesn't need to be a deal. They're legally, they're allowed to fish it.
Our government want to grow a pair of bulls, as you might call it, Stop saying yes to everybody. Look after their own,
It's thought that over 90% of the UK fishing industry voted for Brexit.
I voted for Brexit. I was very passionate about it because I'm at the start of my career, and the few years I've been in it, all I've really seen, especially in the inshore fishery, is more legislation, more limits.
The majority of fishermen in Cornwall would have voted Brexit mainly because of the way the fisheries are managed.
We're throwing thousands and thousands of pounds of dead fish over the side because Brussels tells us we have to.
We have most of the grounds. The French have the lion's share of the quota by a vast amount.
So I think fishermen want our waters and our quota back. I feel that all fisheries need management, It's all very well saying, oh, the quota's this, the quota's that, but at the end of the day, fishermen in their very nature are greedy, and without management there won't be any fish left, so I don't think the EU's all, you can't blame everything on them for the way the fishing industry's gone.
David was one of the few fishermen who voted to remain, concerned that the fishery could go the same way as the old pilchard industry when its European market collapsed.
A high percentage of the fish is exported to the continent, so there'll be some sort of action from the other side of the water without a shadow of doubt. The problem with sardines is not a very high-value fish. If they impose a 10p a kilo levy or something like that, we'll be snookered.
I think we can manage our own fisheries. I think we can manage them more sustainably and responsibly than we are now, yet still be more productive and financially beneficial to fishermen, to the fish processors, and ultimately to the country.
This is where we are this year. What's it looking like?
To try and hang on to their prized MSC badge beyond this season, the members of the Sardine Association are taking matters into their own hands.
Right, let's get out of here.
What we need to do as an association is improve information on stocks, so we can give that to fishery scientists, so they can better assess how much fish is in the sea, or how much fish is in our area, so we know how much to catch.
The Sardine Association is working with the UK fishery scientists to calculate the size of the Cornish stock.
I didn't know if you actually had to put like a whole number in that end.
Brilliant, it's all been filled in, excellent. So what we're asking them to do is keep a track of everything they catch, exactly where they caught it, what depth they caught it at, and also to take a sample every now and again of what they're catching.
For this new research to be counted, it first needs to be ratified by ICES, the International Council for the Exploration of the Sea.
They assess the science from all nations that are in the particular area of fishing, and then they'll come up with a best estimate of the stock. So the MSC use ICES advice to decide how much we're allowed to catch.
It's very rare for fishermen to work together, but in this fishery, we have to, and we do.
On certain nights, we take measurements of a full bucket of sardines to help the science behind all this. So, it doesn't seem like very much, but I think it does help, all the boats measuring what they catch. It's in everyone's best interest to help this thing move forward.
It's a race against time to collect enough data, hoping it proves that their current level of fishing is sustainable.
Unless the ICs do change their advice, then for 2019 we'll have to catch, as a fleet, 20% less than we did in 2018.
If we fish further than their guidelines, then we will lose our MSC accreditation, and therefore we could lose the market. So it's going to be a tricky 12 months.
We've been struggling a bit the last few weeks, yeah. A bit of a mixture between, I suppose, lack of experience on my part and fish not playing ball. Yeah, it's been two and a half weeks of very, very little. I think we had one settling come back from ocean fish, which is the paperwork we get at the end of the week, which was -6 so we didn't even cover the expenses one week, which was a bit frustrating, but...
Righto!
I'm desperate for money, I've got to pay the mortgage, got kids home and all that. But I want to be earning money for the crew as well.
Windy weather coming next week, Will.
Hopefully it'll bring a fish in a bit, if nothing else.
There are fish in the bay.
First time, baby.
And while the other boats are catching them, James keeps missing.
There's a nice bit of fish here, but it's right on the bottom at the minute. If it's on the bottom in shallow water, it's all right. Our net will sink enough to catch it, but we're right on the sort of borderline of where our net will fish at the minute. Nice amount of fish here. It's just not in the right place at the minute.
It is a tricky place to learn because there might only be enough fish for 4 or 5 of the vessels that are out, and there's 7 of us. You've got one chance before it comes dark. If you miss them, you've got a very long night ahead of you.
Might just get our gear on them, and this one here is looking pretty good.
The fish have moved, so James decides he'll have a go.
All right, Will. Missed them there by the looks of it. There's only probably a couple 100 kilo fish there, so slip them over that rope and they'll go back alive then.
Yeah. No good being pissed off, is it, James? No.
When it's a prolonged amount of time you don't catch any fish, you literally are earning nothing, you've got no money coming in, so it can be very frustrating and adds to the sort of stress, if you say, or the worry when you're running the boat that, this is me, this is down to me. You can control if the fish is there or not, but you still feel a responsibility to find it and to provide for your crew. So it's very, very stressful at times when you're not catching anything at all.
Autumn storms rolling in off the Atlantic keep the sardine fleet in harbour.
What have you got?
James gets a rare evening at home with wife Jess and the kids.
I sometimes wish for bad weather, just because you know that you'll have him home for a bit. Okay, but then it's bad to wish for that because of the financial side of things. So we need the money as well. So Bonnie down.
With barely any income from James's fishing, they've had to rely on Jess.
I work on the switchboard at our local hospital, and I start at midnight and finish at 6 in the morning. So they're a bit annoying hours. So I find it more full on when James isn't here, like at this sort of time of the day. Like, it's difficult when the kids are tired and teasy and you're trying to cook, but that's like the life of a mum, I suppose. We kind of get a same wage from me every month, really. So
which is a good,
it's a good, yeah, it's good to know that we get that every month without fail, but it's also quite difficult when you know that sort of James's earnings aren't going to add on to that.
Since we've been in the house, it's just been for a year now, just scraping by, really. So, which again, a lot of people do, but it is just always a worry of where's the next paycheck coming from. You miss out so much at home then, so you try and find a happy medium, and at the minute we've been struggling to find a happy medium of plenty of time home with earning enough to pay the bills. Like.
Anchovy fever. Once that A word is mentioned, there's been a few anchovies up Plymouth or Brixham or something like that. Everyone's on the edge of their seat then.
Anchovies have been spotted 60 miles east off Plymouth. They're a highly lucrative catch. It's a chance for James to turn his season around.
We've been fishing all of these bays here, and we're going to leave today and steam out around Blizzard Point here, and then up towards Plymouth and Faroe area. Anchovies will be nice, a bit more expensive. Top our season up a bit, which we could do with. But if there's pilchards there, we'll have pilchards. We're not really catching anything here, so we'll be going for anything up that way.
The entire Nealin fleet has caught the fever and upped sticks to Plymouth.
Good evening to you, just Alex and Sutton Harbour, please. 5 persons on board.
Yeah, thanks, have a good one.
Thank you very much, lot. See you this evening.
Like sardines, anchovies are a non-quota species, so any ringnetter can target them. Warming seas are bringing them north to our shores in greater numbers.
The anchovies are something you cannot plan on, you cannot bank on. If they happen, though, you can't really mess around on them. You've got to take advantage of it.
If we had a boatload of anchovies, I could afford to take a month off.
I think our best year was 110 tonnes of anchovies in 4 weeks at £2,000 a tonne. You can do the maths. It was good.
Could be anywhere, so we'll go out and see if we can hunt them down.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll pay off, hopefully. I don't know how much more nights of no fish I can take.
An hour's sail south, and Pete has found some fish.
Just seen one first mark I've seen, but it's down deep-ish. Stand by! On the ball we head, right? Are we going? Right, boys?
He's in there.
It's the right stuff, I think. Yes. The mark stayed still, so I'm hoping it's gone up. It looks like it went up in the back of the net, so I'm hoping we're in business. Keep first in.
James hasn't found a thing.
It looks like 2 boats are shot to the west of us 5 miles, and everyone else is shot to the east of us 5 miles. Needle in the haystack in a minute, and we're all by ourselves here in the middle. I didn't hear anything for the boats to the west, so I thought, well, we'll come around and go back towards the other boats, and about 20 minutes after coming round, we see the other ones are shot, so it's just... couldn't make it up. Got to be in the right place at the right time. It doesn't seem to happen very often with us at the minute.
It's looking okay. It's the right stuff anyway, I think.
They're looking blue here. Yeah, they are different species. Called anchovies.
got about 3 or 4 tonnes, probably 75 anchovies, 25% pilchard, something like that.
4 tonne of chovy mixy. We'll find some more, I suppose.
There's a decent mark here. God knows what it is. A few have had pilchards, a few have had anchovies, but struggling. We got a thick fog on it. With this, you want a bit of a reference. I usually use a land, but lights broke on the compass, and yeah, just frustrated at the minute as usual. We'll get ready again in a minute, and I'll see if I can get right side of this in a minute. All right, Phil. Just 10.5 purse, Phil. Yeah, got round the whole thing, whether it's still in there, I don't know, but it went very well, the shot, so hopefully, God knows what they are.
It's looking okay. Come on, baby. Floats are looking funny, James.
They're looking heavy.
Come on, boys, we deserve it.
Chovy. We got him. That's it, mate. Look at that. Yes. Oh, beauty.
Keep on singing, boys.
That's absolutely ace. But I'm not going to be happy until they're there. Oh, I got everywhere. This is more like it. This is what we wanted. The difference about 20 minutes can make in a man's mood. Oh, I'm spilling all on the deck. That's 40 quid on the deck there now. This is one of those, you just want that bun to be endless. You just want to keep railing them.
Here she come, boy.
Look out.
The boys are on it.
About 7 tonne there and about £1,300 a tonne. So the boys should take home over £1,000 each for tonight, hopefully, which is very good. That's my mate. You know, I'm desperate for earning some good money, but I'm chuffed that it's for them now. Did Mummy say Daddy caught 7 tonne anchovies last night, Eva? Bit happier today.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, very, very happy.
When I got your text, I was like, yes!
Yeah, that's probably the first happy text you've had for about a month, Bergen.
As it stands at the moment, I spoke to Pierre on Tuesday, and what they're saying is the next meeting there, our technical meeting regarding sardines, will be in January. And
while the fleet awaits the latest science on the sardine stocks, Gus has arrived in Plymouth to discuss next season. If the association wants to keep their MSC label, they'll have to comply with the current IC's advice.
the advice for us, the UK, is about 5,000 tonnes, so it's going to cause us a problem.
This season, the fleet is capped at just over 7,000 tonnes.
So let's look at this another way then, Gus. So next year, we have to have this 5,000 tonne yarn.
If we want to maintain MSC,
How
yes.
are we going to divvy that?
Again, that's a
your
discussion.
personal opinion.
Whatever track record we've all got now, it's just going to have to be a relative reduction off that.
No, I don't think so, James. Why should it be? No disrespect, a certain boat has got 1,500 tonne, he's going to take a little bit of a cut.
If you take a 10% cut, so for you that would mean 50 tonnes.
Yeah.
On a 500 tonne quota. For somebody who's caught 1,000 tonnes, it would mean 100 tonnes cut.
Exactly. Yeah, but what good's that?
Yeah.
To get under that?
Well, that's how you get to the 5,000 tonnes.
I can't see how you're going to get under it.
Yeah, but it's just going to be quite a reduction, isn't it?
Yes.
A hellish reduction. It's not viable. It's just not going to be. Crews will walk. They won't stay. And, well, these big companies, especially our company, they've got massive investment. They're not going to. It's not viable for them to operate, basically.
The association faces a stark choice for 2019. Reduce their catch to 5,000 tonnes, which won't be viable, or give up their MSC label and risk losing their markets.
Well, at the end of the day, the boats need to remain profitable. You know, it's not just the skipper and the vessel owner that takes a living from the boat. You know, every crew member has got a family, and we've got to make sure that you know they're able to earn a living.
There's one last hope. The Endeavour, the UK fisheries research vessel, has arrived in Foy with news on the current state of the Cornish stocks. Over the last 3 weeks, the scientists on board have been leading the survey of sardines in the seas around Cornwall.
How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see
you too.
If the data proves that the stocks are healthy, the association hopes to persuade ICES to update their catch advice, used by the MSC in time for next season.
So this is where we do all our acoustic processing.
Right.
On this trip, we map and quantify the sardines in its population. From the survey, we can calculate how many fish there are. That information gets fed into the ICES, the International Council for the Exploration of the Sea, the working groups that deal with the assessments, and there it gets determined how many can be fished effectively. We started in Swansea about 2.5 weeks ago. We've made really good progress down the Isles of Scilly and really started to enter the Eddystone Bay now.
And these transacts are the same every year?
Yeah, we know these capture the population representatively. So this is an echogram of some data we collected last night. So what you see here is the surface, and this is the seabed here. And all these marks here, just above the seabed, are fish.
And in terms of your initial interpretation of the biomass, the stock that's there, is it positive?
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I mean, for this year I can't quite say, because we tend to calculate those values right at the end of the survey, because we stratify it and do it that way. But certainly based on what we've caught in the catches and what we've seen in the acoustic data, there looks to be, you know, it certainly looks similar to last year, if not a bit more. We've only done half of the survey. But what we do know is that last year we calculated the biomass to be about 140,000 tonnes. And 140,000 tonnes is quite a lot of fish. The sardine ring netters themselves take less than 10,000 tonnes a year, so in principle that would suggest it's a very sustainable fishery.
It confirms what our guys are seeing on the ground. You know, we've seen a lot of fish this season and in the previous couple of seasons, but the science that they're collecting, it takes time for that to filter through the ICES process, and that delay is obviously causing us problems in terms of our MSC certification. So it's very frustrating, really.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that I can make a living out of the sardine fishery up to the end of my fishing days, but I'm not so optimistic that it can provide a living for all of the people that are in it.
It makes you think how long we got left in this sardine fishery. Don't know how it's going to pan out, but it's early days, so we're not going to change jobs, we just got to go catch them.
The anchovies have disappeared, so the fleet has returned to Newlyn and their day job, chasing sardines across Mounts Bay.
Yeah, it's been carried on the usual trend, really. Been a bit of a struggle. I think it's almost a rite of passage, having all the frustrations and you know, muck-ups, because you've got to learn from them. And with the problems we've had, Ocean Fish has sort of said to us now they'll invest in a new net now, so that's a big relief for us for next year. So this has been our learning year. Next year will be our go for it year. Next year.
When I started as a skipper of a ring net, which was the Resolute, it's a tricky boat. And the net you can imagine now is the original one, which is 14 years old. It's had a lot of damage done to it by us learning. James is a very smart fisherman. The next year he'll have a new net. He'll be thumbs up and up with the rest of us.
Nice to be back home.
It's so frustrating when the fish are there, but no matter how hard you try, you just can't catch them sometimes. That's when it gets really frustrating, but you know, you can't give up on that. You just gotta, it'll come right.
Do you want us to have the chain on quick?
Yeah, go put it on. Oh, it's worth a go. Yep. Oh, I love the ring netting. Here we are now, at the tail end of the season.
Nice corner!
I'm looking forward to a break.
I'm hoping all right. You can see our track there, a little bit of mark in the middle, so I shall go off and do a bit of lobster fishing and spider crabbing and so on in the daylight. You can still lose them, yeah, until you press up. But yeah, give it a month or two, I'll be looking forward to the next season again, yeah. Looks like something there now.
Get in there! That's an early celebration. I'm being very confident, mate. Daylight still. Moon's coming up there.
Oh, there's something in there. Yeah, when it goes right, you really can't beat it. The way it's been this year with a young and keen crew.
Oh, Willie!
You know, all three of us geeing each other on. And it's been good crack.
Either way we haul away, down in our back.
He's chirping like the bird.
There's fish in it, but I don't know how big. I'd have to wait till we pull it up to see what weight's there, but it's looking good.
Despite their challenges this season, many boats have had a good year.
Somewhere along the line, you have a good week. I think this year our best week was in excess of 100 tons, which gives you a buzz.
This year, we ended up catching just over 600 tons. Pretty happy with that. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
All singing, all dancing, all fist pumping crew.
Well, we've searched pretty much everything we can search now. We've called that it, really. For the season, we caught the Resolute caught 140 tons we had this season, which is not a very good season at all. I'm not going to look at it as a waste or all a negative. The fact that I've had a year now to hopefully learn, I'm keeping optimistic as ever for next season.
Any fishermen that spend their life in fishing, it's not all about the money. Obviously, the money makes the world go round at the end of the day, but a lot of the drive in fishing is, you know, you want to catch more. You're a fisherman.
On the Foul Estuary, siblings Jason and Nikki are struggling.
You do get a year where the oysters don't grow.
Their ancient way of fishing no longer pays the bills.
I couldn't go back to working in a shop. Not a chance.
Fish, just look!
Oh, yeah, there's fish.
So they're gambling everything on a new boat.
Plotter's gone.
Not looking good.
Oh, it's pushed me to the limit.